Good morning, it's Ecology Matters again. I'm Pat.
And I'm Jeanette.
And this morning we're on top of a hillside in Wales, in Powys. And we're going to tell you all about what we're here to do. But first, to introduce you to some of our newest guests and companions.
Got a bit of an audience today. I just thought I'd come over and say hello. Gorgeous. Have you ever noticed how every single cow has got its own individual hairdo?
Here's where we are. We're actually on, well, it's not much really. It's a boundary. You can see there some of the fencing, and we're here to have a look at a proposal for some work to take place just a bit further away. Someone's actually putting a mast up, and what we're here to do basically is to have a look if there's going to be any impact, and also to see what sort of biodiversity enhancement measures, what sort of positive things we can do to make life better in this area as part of the scheme.
So leaving our new friends behind, we're just going to have a quick look at what's here already. Bit of an old relic hedgerow here, and oh, hang on, what's that? Looks like Pat has got something in his hands.
Check out these apples! How often do you hear an ecologist say something like that? Now then, the important thing about these apples, these little crab apples, tiny little things, you can see them here. The important thing about these is that they come off some of the trees in this relict hedgerow. We're going to use information like this. We're going to have a look for some more evidence to decide how to restore this feature. Perhaps even, might be even a long time historical feature here, because some of these are quite old trees, for the benefits of the wider biodiversity around here. We've actually got behind us, we've got a new hedgerow in the distance. We'll show you some of that in a minute. We've got these relic sort of remains of bits of hedgerow here, and we're going to try and connect this up to another piece of old sort of upland oak woodland, which we'll show you later on. These apples are a very important part of that overall plan.
Okay, so leaving Pat and his apples behind for a minute, I've just walked down to this bit of hedgerow here. It's got a double fence line and some new, relatively new planting within it. I can see hazel, blackthorn. We'll have a wander down and see what else is here. But one of the reasons for coming is that if we are going to plant or re-establish an existing hedgerow, it's good to see what grows well in the area. I'm still in this double fence line, only this section of hedgerow has obviously been here a lot longer. It's well established, it's thick and dense, it's got a good growth of hawthorn and blackthorn mainly, so it's obviously doing well, and this is something in terms of species choice that I think we'll be using in our new hedgerow.
Do you know, it's great being an ecologist because you get to come out and kind of make sense of landscapes, you know, read the landscape, make sense of the vegetation. Even if you haven't been there before, it's a really exciting part of applying your abilities. Here's some very, very basic stuff. So we've got rabbits here. That's a very important influence on the landscape and the vegetation sort of patterns. We've got this original sort of growth of dense blackthorn here, which is probably sheltering some of the stuff with the rabbits, and then within there we've got some oak trees, some elder and a few other bits and pieces. In other words, this is probably a small remnant of the longer lasting vegetation, which is a great clue as to what will survive here. And if you just pan around, Jeanette, you can see here in the field just how much influence there is of one other important animal, which is sheep, that are really keeping the vegetation in a very sort of tight sward and acting as a major constraint in terms of ecology for what can actually survive here sometimes. Let's go and look at another bit of vegetation, a bit of woodland. We'll show you more about the influence of the sheep and how we need to think about that carefully when we're doing a bit of a restoration scheme.
We've walked about a couple of 100 metres away from the proposed work site, and we've actually just come along the boundary, but we've entered this sort of upland oak woodland, which is really quite a bit of a surprise and very interesting. What we're now thinking, because we've walked that bit further, is that this new potential feature that we're proposing, this new hedgerow, if we can persuade the client to do that little bit more, you can connect with this existing feature that's already in the landscape, and that gives a double value to putting in a new hedgerow.
Now, it's awfully windy here today. We've come in the woodland thinking it would be slightly more sheltered, but I can still feel the wind blowing. I have to take my hat off actually. So I love woodlands. I don't know about you, how you feel, viewers, but I think they're wonderful places. I feel very comfortable in them and very sort of secure, never threatened. This is a fantastic bit of woodland. What we've got here is basically a load of old, mature, over-mature trees, some foresters might describe them as, with a very grassy carpet underneath. This is an area of woodland that over time, some of its characteristic features like the understory and some of the typical ground flora plants have been lost as a result of the impacts of grazing, particularly sheep grazing. But we can do something about it. We can restore it. We can turn it back to something perhaps like it was many years ago. And as part of the restoration scheme here, what we're hoping is not only to reconnect things with the hedgerows, but to try and look at the condition of places like this and see what we can do to make them even better.